Coming at you live, coming at you live. It is your boy Skillz. It is Skillz on Sports, where you get the opinions of a non-expert, non-professional guy who just happens to love the NFL, the NBA, and MLB, and loves to ramble about it for about 45 minutes every week or so. We're just getting started here. A lot to talk about. I don't even know where I'm going to start. We're going to probably do some zigzagging here tonight. We have so many topics to get into, from the local teams where I'm at in the San Francisco Bay Area, which would be the San Francisco 49ers, the Golden State Warriors, and the San Francisco Giants, who are, yes, in the news in spite of it not being baseball season for another 6 weeks. Oh, I just realized we're in January, people. You know what that means? Pitchers and catchers report next month to spring training. What a glorious time. I love spring training baseball. I'm in spring training baseball currently in my MLB The Show video game, which is MLB The Show 22. I like to live in the past a little bit when it comes to my baseball games because they're a little cheaper that way, number one. And number two, my Giants still had a semblance of their superstar 2021 roster, in a record-breaking 2021 roster in that game, which when I post videos of when I play that game on TikTok and on YouTube, and the series is titled MLB The Show 22, the 2021 Giants Avenging the 2021 Giants. That's what it's called. See, it's been a minute. I briefly forgot what it was called. But yeah, that's what I'm doing there. And if you look over my shoulder, which is my right shoulder in real life, but may appear differently to how you're viewing, there is, if I can get my thumb pointed in the right direction, that Christmas tree up there, that was a gift from my 8-year-old neighbor Charlotte. There we go. That was a gift from my 8-year-old neighbor Charlotte on Christmas Day. And I love it. We love it. It's going to be in view of all the videos, whether it's sports talk, rap, whatever I do here at the crib. It's going to be in plain view for all of you to see and enjoy, because I'm proud of that gift. And thank you again, Miss Charlotte, if you happen to see this video, which you probably won't, because I know you don't really care a whole lot about sports. Thing is, I want to tell you about my thoughts on Jimmy Butler coming to the Golden State Warriors in a trade. As you may have heard today, the Miami Heat guard of the past, 5-6 seasons, guard/4, whatever you want to call him, positionless basketball, whatever. He publicly requested a trade yesterday, I believe it was, which was January 2nd. And yesterday was January. Yeah. Today's 3rd, 2nd, okay. And this is on the heels of Pat Riley recently saying that Butler was not going to be traded. And things do change, obviously, in a short bit of time. Butler he had a press conference that he is not happy, apparently, with on-court developments in Miami. He says he's happy off the court. Not that I don't really care if he's happy or not. But he says he's happy off the court in Miami with the Miami Heat, but he's not happy on the court with the Miami Heat. And I can only take that to mean that since he is averaging 17.8 points per game, which is the lowest he's averaged in over 10 years, and Tyler Hero is clearly the main number one option scoring the ball in Miami now, who's like 7 points per game ahead of Butler, I can only assume that has something to do with it. He's probably not happy with the shots not going to him all the time as they once did. And he's probably not happy with the fact that at age 35, that's unlikely to change for him. Superstars, not that he was ever a superstar, but even superstars, such as the one here in the San Francisco Bay Area, Steph Curry, do age, do get usurped by younger, better players, as has happened with Curry a little bit in flashes from the young forward Jonathan Kuminga recently. And it's happened out in Miami. Hero is clearly the guy to go to. Butler, when he even bothers to be in the lineup, is still a decent contributing player. He's shooting 55% from the floor overall, and he's shooting 38% on threes heading into tonight's play, which I'm going to get to in a second, which he didn't play. But he's not the guy that Miami wants to have the ball when crunch time is happening. He's just not that guy anymore. Because when you're absent as much as he is, and he's absent a lot, your team is forced to play without you. And that's kind of what happened in Miami with Butler and his frequent prolonged absences due to injury or due to I don't feel like playing itis or whatever it may be, or the suspension, which I'm going to get into, that just went down today. Your team is forced to play without you. Miami's been forced to play without Butler. They've gotten used to playing without Butler, and they see now that they can win games without Butler dominating the ball. And that's what's happening. And he doesn't like it. He didn't say that, but he didn't have to. The numbers don't lie. Butler he was the co-leading scorer in Miami last season. He was the leading scorer in Miami season before that. I'm willing to bet he was the leading scorer in Miami every other year before that. I didn't look up all his years there. Just looked up the last 2 or 3. This year, that's changed. He doesn't like it. He's been a number one guy. He was the number one guy in Chicago for all those years. Even when Derrick Rose was around, he kind of took over that spot. He went to Minnesota. We'll get into that later. Same thing. Goes to Philadelphia. He's kind of like co-guy with Embiid, but still, he still had his chest out real big. Hey, I'm Jimmy Butler, and you guys better love me or else. So today, the Heat announced a 7-game suspension for Butler due to repeated. This is them saying in a statement. This wasn't Riley speaking out directly. This was in a statement. Due to repeated acts of conduct detrimental to the team, things he's said, things he's done, and those things were not detailed. But you can only imagine, if you know Jimmy Butler's history, you can only imagine the kind of attitude, the kind of behavior, the kind of grumpiness he was bringing to that locker room as his shots dwindled up and went to Tyler Hero. And you can only imagine that he made his displeasure known to all, whether all were interested in hearing about it or not. Because that's what he does. And boy, look at the gray patches on my chin. I'm getting old. I'm going to turn 45 in March, people. And speaking of my birthday, and we're going to circle back to that. Butler with his trade demand, and Miami agreeing in a same statement that they are going to actively seek to trade him because that marriage has finally come to. And I'm surprised it lasted as long as it did. Remember, he landed in Miami, and it was, fresh start for Jimmy Butler. Oh, this is where he needed to be all along. Oh, him and the Heat, him and Pat Riley, Heat culture, blah, blah, blah. It was supposed to be the marriage made in heaven, but even marriages made in heaven don't always make it to the finish line. Heaven apparently has a cap on the territory it covers. So here's Butler's, where he's at now. He's firmly on the block. He's going to miss however many games it takes to get him moved. And, of course, he idiotically drove his value down by asking for the trade. So now that Miami has to move him, other teams don't have to give up as much to try to get him. Not that they're getting a stud. He's 35, and as I said, his scoring is way, way down. However, here's what's driving me crazy. And this is going to be an early session of Skillz on Pills. If you listen to this show regularly, if you watch the show regularly, you know that I take blood pressure medication, and I take it in order to deal with the various topics, behaviors, transactions, bad play, poor excuses, and even recently quitting in the middle of a game that drive me crazy in the world of pro sports. I take these blood pressure pills to help kind of keep my BP at a manageable level when dealing with these shenanigans in the world of sports. And what's got me riled up this week, does it have me riled up this week? I called 95.7 the game to vent about it today, but they took too long getting to my call, so I hung up the phone. But what's got me riled up about it is that my Golden State Warriors, Splash Brothers, yeah, I know they're not together anymore, who cares? My Golden State Warriors, there's a lot of people in sports talk callers, online reports, wondering if the Warriors should bring in Jimmy Butler. And not seeing a reason not to. They're not, other than this age, they're literally not coming up with any viable reasons why Jimmy Butler coming to the Golden State Warriors would be a bad idea. Or at least, at the very least, will not bring the return that they're hoping for. All right? I'm going to list, and I know Jimmy Butler's a damn good player. I know he's averaged 20 points per game a bunch of times. So you know what? This year, there's been 66 other players besides Butler that average 20 points per game or more this season. There's another 3 like a tick behind them. And these are qualifying players who've played at least half their team's games. I believe I wrote the number down. 66 of them, was it? Yeah. and there's uh, actually no, 44 averaging 20 plus points per game, and 66 averaging more points per game than Butler's 17.8. So we're not talking about a revolutionary guy. He never was a revolutionary guy. He never was a franchise player. He never was that. He was always a good, solid leading scorer on a team that's already winning and has all the pieces built around him. But no one was saying we don't remember Michael Jordan when he played for the Bulls, when Butler played for the Bulls. He wasn't evoking memories of MJ. Don't get me wrong. He wasn't that great of a player. He was a good, solid scorer, good, solid defender, intensity and all the intangibles. But he was also a troublemaker and a jerk. No one else seems to remember this except me and maybe a couple other callers to the radio station, just how toxic of an ass Butler has been known to be in his career. And I'm talking about, let's take the Bulls out of it. He was traded from the Bulls to the Minnesota Timberwolves. And you remember his act there when he embarrassed the young players Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns in practice. Embarrassed them by beating, how did it go? He beat them with like a team of backups or something like that, and then vocally called them out, embarrassed them in front of everyone. These were two of the top young scorers on the team, two players the team was trying to build around, and Butler basically tore them to shreds, destroyed their confidence, made it clear that he was the man in Minnesota, made it clear that Minnesota would not win without him, and whether or not it was true, it was an assholish thing to do. Completely and totally disrespectful, completely and totally unprofessional. And he did it, and he never apologized for it, and I guarantee you he's not sorry for it today. And let's not forget, this is a man. We're going to do a little This Is a Man here in Skillz on Pills. This is a man who, and I wrote these down so I wouldn't forget everything, declared that he would play back-to-backs when he felt like playing back-to-backs. The Warriors play a lot of back-to-backs. All teams play a lot of back-to-backs. So you have a guy who's taken himself out of 10 games already per season before the season even freaking started. At least 10 games he's not going to play back-to-backs. And he made that announcement years ago. And for the most part, from what I'm seeing, he hasn't veered from it very, very far ever since. I can't say for sure if he's been playing back-to-backs in Miami. I'm sure he's played some here and there. But I guarantee you he's also missed a few. This is something that you're going to have to just trust me on, because this is just who this guy is. This is a man who, on my 42nd birthday, and we get into Heat culture sometimes, especially when Udonis Haslem was still there, playing for Miami. And Heat culture was supposed to be this very special thing, almost like Warriors culture. You come in, you do things a certain way, you'll be one of us, and this is how we do things, that if you can't get with the program, you're out. We're pros here, blah, blah, blah. So there was a day the Warriors were playing in Miami, my 42nd birthday, and the Warriors were running Miami off the court. And in fact, as Miami was going off the court for a timeout, Haslem was making his displeasure with the team known from the bench. And what does Butler do? He calls Haslem, maybe the most respected man in the game at the time, certainly the most respected man on that team, a cheerleader, right in front of everyone. And he was smart enough not to say anything else after saying that, because Haslem was ready to put him in the ground. Haslem was ready to put Jimmy Butler 6 feet under. Had there not been an entire team of players and coaches in between the two of them, Butler might have had, at the very least, a shiner, at the very least, maybe a couple teeth rearranged, because Haslem was going to win that fight, bro. I wouldn't bet against Haslem, anybody in the NBA then or today. So this is a guy who just does not have respect for anyone. If he can't respect Udonis Haslem in Miami, then this is a man who cannot respect anyone, who probably just walk over Steve Kerr, or walk over Steph Curry, will walk over Draymond Green, will walk over all the Warriors leaders. He certainly will walk over Wiggins. If he came to the Warriors, Wiggins would probably go back in the trade. But you get my point. This is a man, and let's see, what are my other reasons? This is a man who has been dumped by, if you count Miami, about to dump. This will be 4 teams that have gotten rid of Butler in his career. Great players with great reputations do not get dumped by 4 teams during his prime and at the very tail end of his prime. You don't dump players like that. You hold on to them. If their play measures up to their intangibles in the locker room, on and off the court. If they're that same guy, if they're a professional guy, if they're a winner on the court, if they're a winner behind the scenes, if they're somebody who adds to the organization, if there's somebody who you're proud to run with, somebody who cares, somebody who gives a damn. And I've never accused Jimmy Butler of not giving a damn about winning games. It's just that he goes about it in a way that I don't really approve of. And he goes about it most of the time when he feels like going about it. And when he feels like going about it, who can predict that? And going further, this is a man who, and look, don't come at me with any of your LGBT stuff. This isn't what I'm talking about. What I'm saying here is most players, people, period, don't show up to their games with bright neon braids. They just don't. Or whatever various color he's chosen for that particular day. And don't forget the time he showed up to training camp with the Claire Huxtable hairdo. I don't know what the hell that was all about. That was him just doing whatever he could to get attention because he needed attention. And forget whatever he had to do on the court. His play should have spoken for itself. And he should know that. But this is a man who needs attention so bad, he's doing things like this just to get people to look at him, just to get people to talk about him. Kind of like the way Aaron Rodgers does sometimes, except I don't think Aaron Rodgers ever dyed his hair any weird colors. And Dennis Rodman, no disrespect to Dennis Rodman, Dennis was just being Dennis. Then this Butler isn't. Do not compare Jimmy Butler to Dennis Rodman as a person or as a player. So we also have the fact that Jimmy Butler. We remember when Pat Riley called him out over the offseason, and I don't think Butler ever got over that. Riley wasn't happy with a lot of things going on with Jimmy, and he called him out publicly. I forget exactly how it went, but there's some things Riley said that, and honestly, I wouldn't blame Butler for not being happy with what Riley said. But when you're talking about the Godfather, Pat Riley, now Pat Riley's been around as a player since the 60s and 70s, I think it was when he played. He was the coach of the Showtime Lakers in the 80s. He was the coach of the Bad Boy Knicks. Wait, no, that was the Pistons. He was the coach of if the Pistons were the Bad Boys, and the Knicks were kind of like the Mean Boys. Okay, the Mean Boy Knicks of the 1990s. That was Pat Riley. That had his blueprint all over it. And then Pat Riley went on to the Heat as a coach, executive, and coach again, and executive again. And I can't remember. Now, I'm going to preface this by telling you, I admit, I don't read everything written by everyone. I don't know everything everyone's ever done or said in regards to Butler, in regards to anything sports related. I know my share, but I don't know everything. But I as someone who's immersed in this stuff pretty much year round, I think I'd remember if Pat Riley ever called out a player publicly the way he called out Butler. And I'm sitting here, I've racked my brain. I haven't searched the web or anything like that. I've just gone by memory. I can't remember Pat Riley, the Godfather, who's not afraid to call out anybody, who's probably the only 80-year-old man connected to the NBA right now who people would be afraid of. Because I think Pat Riley would bust you up even now. I have never heard him call out anybody the way he called out Butler this past offseason. And trust me, there's been people who've deserved it. Right? He had a chance where he could have called out Ewing. He could have called out John Starks having such a poor finals. He could have called out his Miami Heat players from the first go round, the Alonzo Mourning era, and all that stuff. And he could have called out. I'm sure there was a lot of shenanigans going on with those Lakers. He could have called out anybody there. He didn't have quite the same gravitas in the 80s as he does now, but he was getting there. He was close. And I'm willing to bet at some point Kareem or Magic or Worthy did or said something or didn't do or didn't say something that could have caused his, well, I don't think it would have caused his hair to come out of place. I don't think that's possible. But it may have caused his tie to maybe inch off to the side a little bit. It may have ruffled one of his cufflinks or something like that. Ruffle a cufflink. They call that the cuffle. But no, he's never done anything like that. And this isn't a case of an old man, get off my lawn. He's not going senile. Riley has it all going on. He knows what's going on. And he was specifically doing what he thought and what he hoped would light a fire under this guy. And it seemed like it had the exact opposite effect, which I don't blame Riley for that at all. I blame the player. Butler has this reputation of being a playoff stud, a postseason stud, a hero, kind of like the same way Reggie Miller. People remember Reggie Miller, the longtime Pacers guard, 1987-05, 2005, as this great postseason clutch killer because of the and because of the 8 points in 8 seconds he had that time. And they forget that in that clinching series, the game right after the 8 points in 8 seconds, Reggie put up a stinker. And then Jimmy Butler, this is a guy for all his playoff heroics, and he's had some. I'm not saying he hasn't. He's had some. But in the clincher against the Lakers in the 2020 finals, Butler 12 points. In the clincher of the 2023 finals against the Denver Nuggets, which I watched in a hotel room, he shot 5 for 18. And I think he had 20-something points, but it was just all volume. Like a few free throws and triples and stuff like that. So Butler has failed to show up when the lights have been brightest on more than one occasion. Which is not to knock him because anybody can have a bad game. I'm not knocking him strictly for that, but you take the overall body of work. Oh, the Warriors are going to get a playoff god. Oh, if the Warriors might not even make the playoffs. All right? And by the way, this has been Skillz on Pills. We're going to wrap that part of the discussion. And now you know where I stand on Jimmy Butler. I am against him coming to the Warriors because I believe that if he comes to the Warriors, he will, in fact, poison that locker room with whatever young players still remain who aren't traded to bring him in. And the consensus says that in order to bring Jimmy Butler to the Warriors, financially you'll have to give up Andrew Wiggins. And selfishly, a part of me kind of wants that because I have this thing where I'm putting together a roster or at least a list of former teammates who were later traded for each other. And Wiggins, Butler, that move would be perfect as former teammates later traded for each other. But obviously, I don't want Wiggins to leave the Warriors if it means Butler's coming in. But that's what has to happen for the dollars to match. I don't know offhand what either one of those guys are making, but I know it's a lot. I know their salaries are not that far apart. In NBA, your trades, when you swap players, you have to have salaries come close to each other. I think it has to be within 75%, 80%, something like that, dollar for dollar. And then obviously the Heat are going to want at least 2 more youngsters in return if they're giving up their former franchise guy, the guy who they formerly built around. And the Warriors have got, out of these 5 guys, Brandon Podziemski, you have Moses Moody, you have Jonathan Kuminga, you have Trace Jackson Davis, and then probably one of the two-way guys, one of the G League guys from this season, like what's the guy? I can see his name. Quentin Post, like that guy, or some other low level Guy Santos, one of those type guys, would have to be moved out. And I just remember someone mispronounced his name as Guy Sanchez. It just made me laugh. And so it would take something like that to bring Butler in. And so that means if you have those 5, at least those 5 guys, and there's other impressionable guys on that roster whose names are slipping me right now, but whoever stays behind, whoever doesn't get moved, Butler is going to be around at least 2 of those guys who are left behind. And who's to say that Butler's not going to be happy with the Warriors? He's not happy with the Heat. He's not going to be the man in Golden State, not at age 35. I mean, hell, Curry's 37, and he's barely holding on to that status as it stands right now. And so he comes in here, and he finds out that the welcome mat, there's no red carpet for him. He's expected to actually show and earn whatever shots he gets, whatever minutes he gets, because you don't just come to go. Look at Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder is not on Butler's level as a player, but he's a veteran guy who's won everywhere he's been. He's been on a ton of playoff teams, just like Jimmy Butler, and he's found himself recently, up until recently, because he did not play well his first week with Golden State. He did not play well at all. He shot the ball as stinky. I mean, like Dennis Schroeder shooting. Was that? Did someone fart? Nah, man, that was Schroeder shooting the ball again. Oh man, somebody sprayed. Psst, stinky. Please, Schroeder, pass. Pass, dog. And that's what it was like that first week that we had Dennis Schroeder. Funked up the whole gym wherever he went, but he's been playing better. Still, he's in trade rumors as well. You can move veteran guys. Who says you can't move veteran guys twice in one season? And Schroeder has not been, even though he's played better the last couple games, he's not been the guy Golden State thought they were getting when they traded for him. So who's to say Butler is going to be the same guy that who say he's not going to struggle himself coming to yet another new city? The difference is between Schroeder and Butler is that people like Dennis Schroeder, and Dennis Schroeder is not a toxic force when he's unhappy. I don't know if he's even ever been unhappy on a NBA team. I've heard nothing but good things about him as a person. So even though he's annoyed the crap out of me during his career as a Warriors killer. So in closing the Butler talk, I just want to say as you probably figured out, I'd rather not have him come to the Golden State Warriors. You go wherever he wants. What other news is going on? 2 nights ago, Jaden Ivey, the young point guard for the Detroit Pistons, was going for a loose ball at home against the Orlando Magic when Cole Anthony of the Orlando Magic took him out, and it was only because he got kind of like half shoved, he was knocked off balance, knocked right into Ivy's planted leg, which went in a shape and a direction that legs aren't supposed to go, unless maybe you're an ostrich. I'm sorry if that visual proved unsettling for you. I didn't mean to say that. I wasn't planning to say that. Ivy was down for a long time, obviously, and it turns out his fibula was broken, and he had surgery on that injury today. It was quite a scene when you saw, and if you watch the whole scene from start to finish, with the trainers and the medical staff tending to Ivy as they air casted him and got him on the stretcher, got him off the court and everything. Both teams surrounded him. Both teams were in concern over him, and none more than Anthony. Anthony did not mean to hurt him. Obviously, it was he got kind of thrown into him. You would never, the Pistons themselves got into a scuffle with the Utah Jazz. What was it 2 weeks ago? Around that time, Ron Holland versus who was Jordan Clarkson. And players, you're gonna get in the fight sometimes, but nobody wants to actually injure someone and damage their livelihood. No one wants to see that. I don't care how bad your blood is. If you do get in the fight, you get 1-2 piece, and that'd be it. All right, this isn't like this wouldn't be like a gladiator fighting to the death. It wouldn't be like swords brought out. Oh, you gonna foul me under the basket, huh? Prepare to die. It's not like that. No, I promise you, the NBA, no sports league wants to injure other players to that degree. Especially when they're just as easily susceptible to having it happen to them on the very next play. So prayers up and fast healing to Jaden Ivey. He's got a chance to come back towards the end of the season, from what I've read. He might make it back towards the end of the season. And the thing is, Detroit and okay, I'm going to tell you something. And especially if you watched the NBA last season, I want you to promise me you will not start laughing, because I'm dead serious what I'm about to tell you. The Detroit Pistons might make the Eastern Conference playoffs this season. Yeah, it's funny to me. Go ahead, laugh it up. But Detroit won tonight. They've won 2 in a row. They're 16-18, which isn't gonna make the '96 Bulls or the '16 Warriors. They're not worried about having to pull down their banner, their record-breaking banner, or anything like that. In deference to these Pistons. However, 16 wins. You got to remember one thing. They've won 16 out of 34 games this season. Last season, Detroit won 14 games total. 14 games out of 82, Detroit won. So they've already eclipsed. They won their 15th game on Wednesday. That was the game that Ivy got hurt. So on New Year's Day of 2025, they already won more games this season. They took them to win 14 games in April, and they still didn't get to 15 wins last season. That was kind of like an English properly structured sentence. It was close enough. You know what I'm trying to say. So kudos to them. And the thing is, they got these young pieces like Ivy, and Cunningham's gonna always be doing this thing. The big center, Jalen Duren holding it down at the 5 spot. And then, they brought in the guys this past off season like Tim Hardaway Jr., who's been a good player for them, has been a full time starter for them after kind of vacillating off and on the bench over his career. They brought in Malik Beasley, who's usually a 6-man, sometimes a starter. For the Pistons, he's been usually a 6-man, sometimes a starter, but he's pouring in 16 points a game for him. They traded to get Hardaway. I'm sorry, they traded to get Hardaway. They signed Tobias Harris, the other TH guy they brought in. And Harris was a guy who I raked over the coals last season for being such a disappointment for the Sixers. He just, night after night, when they needed him the most, those nights when Embiid was out, those nights when Maxey was either not playing well or not in the lineup, which I don't think there were too many of them. Well, Maxey missed some games last season, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, I remember Harris being sorely needed, his scoring sorely needed. And it wasn't like he wasn't capable of it. This guy who's, still fairly young, I think he was like 33 years old, and he just routinely put up clunkers for the Pistons. And I chewed him out for it. Not to his face, obviously. I'm not stupid. He guy's like 6'8", 250. I'm not going to do that. But I just, in any of my skills on sports, you go back and look. Yeah, I didn't have great words to say about the guy, but he's had some good. He's had some good games this year for the Pistons. He had a 24-point game tonight, 10 rebounds. He was getting it done in a number of different ways. He's helped that team a lot, and also helping that team a lot is a guy who's quickly developing a reputation as a quick team turner arounder, if there is such a description, and that's Coach JB Bickerstaff. I'm going to go over this with you, and I'm going to try not to. I'm not going to move my notebook because papers and the microphone just don't match. It leads to horrible ear pain, as I've come to find out. But you have a guy in Bickerstaff who's turned around this is like the fourth team. Wait, fourth? 1, 2, third. This would be the third team that he's turned around in very fast time as head coach. Now in Houston, he started out his first head coaching job was with the Houston Rockets. He had been what they call the associate head coach under Kevin McHale. But then they fired McHale 11 games into the season at 4-7. Bickerstaff comes in, finishes at 34 or 37 and 34, which isn't like, what I mean. Like, you can't really go 4-7. I mean, McHale could have still done that. But just bear with me. Get where I'm going with this. By 17-18, he's the associate head coach. Bickerstaff is. He's the associate head coach with the Grizzlies, and their head coach was David Fisdale. He started that year. 7-12. And after Bickerstaff guided them to a 15-48 finish for a 22-60 overall record that year. The next year, with Bickerstaff in charge from start to finish, those same Grizzlies went 33-49. So that is a mark. That's still not a good record, but that's a marked improvement. Then his next head coaching job, Bickerstaff lands with the Cleveland Cavaliers, guides him to a 5-6 finish in the COVID year, in succession of a guy whose name I had not read since the COVID year happened, John Beilein, and I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right because I haven't heard that man's name before or since the COVID year. But in any event, Bickerstaff finishes up that season 5-6. The team overall finishes. What was it? I didn't write down their total record either, but it was bad. But by the next year, 2 years later, they were 44-38. Then they bring in Donovan Mitchell. They win 51 games, and they win 48 games. So that's a pretty fast turnaround for the Cavaliers as well. The thing that's cost Bickerstaff jobs in his career is failing to get it done in the playoffs. He's only 7-15 lifetime in the playoffs against or whoever, all different teams combined, and that's going to get you bounced early, and that's going to get owners, making stupid rash decisions. Oh, I know we were like the 15th best team in the conference 2 years ago, but because we got swept in the second round, that's just unacceptable to me. So I'm going to fire the coach, and that'll solve all our problems, won't it? Okay. To be fair, Cleveland Cavaliers' problems seem to be solved fairly quickly this year. firing Bickerstaff and bringing whoever the hell's their coach now. Who's it? It's not Vogel. Who's their coach now? I'll have it in the notes. But it's worked for the Cleveland Cavaliers this season. I'll give them that. However, Bickerstaff, it seems like JB Bickerstaff is the guy you want if you want your team to go from to in less than 2 years' time. 2 years' time or less. He's done it everywhere he's been. So he's doing it in Detroit right now. They have a good chance to, and I'm not talking just play in either. I'm talking these guys, the Eastern Conference. I mean, it's kind of muddled up there. He could get a 6 seed with these Detroit Pistons if they get and stay hot and they get and stay healthy. Now losing Ivy is going to hurt a little bit, but I think they have enough depth. And addition by subtraction, Killian Hayes not on the roster anymore. I don't think he's on anybody's roster right now. So there you go. And part of me hopes they do it. Part of me hopes they do make the playoffs. Just because, okay, what can I say? I like parity. I like to see different teams getting in after long playoff droughts. And the Pistons have made the playoffs. I think the last time they were in the playoffs was 17-18, if I'm not mistaken. And so they're due. And Detroit certainly doesn't need anything else to be upset about. God knows you would think, the way some of the stories come out of Detroit, you would think that they have nothing but misery there. And the truth is, it's only about probably, 75% misery. Ha 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 ha. It's a joke, people. Shut up. We're already 40 minutes in. I'm going to be forced to kind of speed race through these next few stories. Go to MLB real quick. The Baltimore Orioles brought in Charlie Morton to replace the departed Corbin Burns. Now, Charlie Morton is no Corbin. Why can't I pronounce this man's name? Charlie Morton is no Corbin Burns, but he is a more than capable major league starter who's been around forever. He's got to be coming up on 40 here pretty soon. He's 39 or 40 years old. He might even be over 40 by now. I'll look it up and have it up in the notes. Morton will help bridge that gap. Burns went to not my Giants, unfortunately, but he went to the rival Arizona Diamondbacks for $210 million. Now, my Giants, we had hopes that we were going to bring in Burns. I mean, after all, we already brought in Willie Adames, who played with Burns for years in Milwaukee. Of course, I'm sure Willie Adames, who everybody speaks so highly of, Willie Adames couldn't place a call to Corbin Burns. Hey, Corbin, come out to the Bay, man. It's going to be really cool, man. You're going to love it here, dude. There's going to be, like, waves and orange bridges and stuff, man. And you know what? Yeah, there's going to be like, a very short porch in right field, but for some reason nobody can hit balls over it. You're going to do well here. That call was either not made, or or Corbin Burns was on the phone with other people. I mean, Corbin Burns was maybe Instagramming at the time. The phone ringing. I'm trying to Instagram here. So that discussion didn't take place, and now we have to live life without him. But here's the good news. Oh, also, Austin Slater was Corbin Burns' teammate last season. What did he whisper in Corbin Burns' ear? Did they ever befriend each other? Did he get his number? Did Austin Slater say anything good about the Giants? Did he say something bad about the Giants? We'll never know. But here's the thing. What's his name? Roki Sasaki? Roki Sasaki, the big-time free agent, is he 23 years old? I think he's 23 years old. Pitcher out of the Nippon League. Played for Chiba last season, and he's a damn good pitcher. He can do a lot of things. He throws hard. He can do a lot of things with the baseball. He's still a free agent. The Dodgers didn't get this guy. They did get a player from Asia recently. They did get a player from Asia today. It was announced that they signed. His name is Hye-Seong Kim, and is not to be confused with Hae-Seong Kim from the Padres. This is a different guy. This is an infielder/outfielder who hit over 300 last season. He's got some pop in his bat. He's apparently a good fielder as well. And the Dodgers got him for 3 years, $12 million. So that's a steal for them. Well, I don't know if it's a steal. I don't know if this guy's any good or not. Going to be translated to America or not. We'll see. But for them, it's the rare move where they don't have to spend 9 figures to bring in a guy. They also brought back Kike Hernandez, who spent almost all his career with the Dodgers. He was with the Red Sox briefly, but most of his career has been with the Dodgers. They brought back Kike, who's also an infielder/outfielder. He got a 3-year deal. I didn't get the dollars on that, but get ready for more Kike Enrique Hernandez. down at Dodger Stadium, Chavez Ravine. And I don't hate Kike Hernandez. As much as I hate the Dodgers, Kike's been there forever. I don't hate him. I really don't. I don't hate Kershaw. I don't hate a couple of the other Dodgers. I don't hate Mookie Betts. I don't hate Freddie Freeman. But there's guys still there who I would, if they were being chased by bees, I'm not positive I would open the door for them. And I'm not just talking to save myself either. I could do without Will Smith. I don't have much use for Max Muncy. Bueller was okay, but just about every other starter on the staff besides Kershaw is an idiot. Remember they had Bauer for a minute there, and that just kind of, his stink still lingers. I'm not talking about anything with the assault case. I'm talking about just Bauer, just overall being, because he's just not a nice guy. Period. Oh, Bueller. In case I don't remember if I announced it in our last show. Walker Bueller, signed with the Boston Red Sox. And here's the funny thing about that story, because Bueller's always worn number 21 in his career, and there's a reason why no one has worn number 21 for the Red Sox in almost 3 decades now. Say it with me now. Who did that number 21 belong to? Say it with me now. 1, 2, 3. Roger Clemens. Yes, very good, very good, very good. Now, 21's never been retired for Roger Clemens, but no one has worn it since he left after the 96 season. I'm guessing that's because they would like to retire should he ever get into the Hall of Fame, which it does not appear is likely, but you cannot give up hope as long as you have these various committees voting people in. Like recently, who was it? Dick Allen got voted in recently by one of these committees. We just had was that last season, and then we just got Dave Parker voted in as well. So you can't really count. No, that was just this past December. Yeah, you can't really count out anyone at this point. So there's going to be some guys who want these guys in the Hall of Fame. So we may be one day viewing a bust of Roger Clemens and his trademark forkball, or his, Roger Clemens, got to baseball real hard. Mike Piazza for a bat. Maybe one day have the grunting, menacing Roger Clemens in Cooperstown. And even if we don't, he will be in the Skillz Savage Plates of Greatness, which I talked about in our last show, or the show before that, one of the others. So, once again, a lot of stuff I want to get to that we will not get to. Just a couple things about my Niners and about the NFL before we wrap things up is that this weekend, it does not appear that Saquon Barkley is going to play as he attempts to, or as he was in position to break the all-time rushing yard record. Now, you remember Saquon a few years ago was in a game where he had a chance to break the single game rushing yards record, and he chose, and it was the game that the Giants were way ahead in, and he chose to let one of the young guys, by his own mouth, let one of the young guys run it. He's not about records. He's just not that guy. He's about just playing hard and winning. And the Eagles have a chance to go to the playoffs. He's not going to risk getting hurt and ruining their playoff chances just to break a record, which people would question anyway, since it would be done in 17 games instead of 16. So, Saquon, props to you for putting the team first, not worrying about numbers. I mean, the way his career is going right now, he might get into the Hall of Fame. If he were to quit playing today, I think there's a good chance he get in the Hall of Fame. Anyway, running backs, you have to remember, he hasn't been around that long. He's only been around 6 years. But running backs usually don't last more than 10. If they last 10, they're lucky. And a lot of great running backs didn't even last that. So, good for Saquon, and he would have my vote if the Canton voting took place today. Quarterbacks who won't be in the lineup this weekend include Anthony Richardson, Brock Purdy, Derek Carr, Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts is concussed. It's not to protect him, so don't get that confused. And then in closing, we'll just talk about the horrible. I didn't get to talk about this in my last show, which was devoted strictly to Ricky Henderson. But on December 21st, wide receiver Tank Dell of the Houston Texans suffered one of the worst injuries ever. And it was bad to look at, and as bad as it was to look at, it's even worse to read about. He hit his own teammate's leg while trying to make a touchdown catch in the end zone. This was at, or was it against? It was at Kansas City. It was on a Saturday football game. And that collision tore his ACL, tore his MCL, tore the lateral ligaments, and also dislocated his kneecap and damaged his meniscus. Just a total litany, is running the gamut of all the things you can do to your knee. He did just about everything, but uh, burn it off the bone. I mean, like, Jesus Lord. Even dislocated the kneecap. We're talking Sean Livingston type stuff right there. If you remember Sean Livingston from the NBA, his knee injury from 2007? Just like that. That's how bad it was. Tank Dell's second year receiver. He had 51 catches this year. I think he had 667 yards, 3 touchdowns, played 14 games. Where he's going to finish out his 14 games. And Houston's going to still make the playoffs without him. He, today I believe it was, posted on Instagram just a simple 2-word statement, which really wraps up and sums up where he's at. Long journey. And I for one, I hope to God he completes this journey. I hope to God he gets every bit of his ability back in that knee, and that he can continue to play and have a good, healthy career going forward. You never want to see that happen to anyone. It was horrible, people. I don't recommend you going to look at it. I saw it out of the corner of my eye. Even out of the corner of my eye, it was brutal to watch that knee buckle the way it did. So that's going to do it for tonight's Skillz on Sports. We've already run 50 minutes, and I'm your boy Skillz. I will be here for you next week. I don't know when exactly, but I hope to have a show for you probably Monday to wrap up Week 18, the final regular season week of the NFL season, and then we'll do some playoff talk, and we'll do some NBA talk and more MLB talk as that day comes around. And plus, the stack of things that I didn't get to in my notebook that I meant to get to tonight, but too much and used up all my time. So anyway, thanks for joining in. Thanks for checking out the show. Thanks for checking out the show, Skillz on Sports. I keep wanting to call it Skillz on Pills again. Skillz on Sports. Your boy Skillz, and I'm signing off to you. God bless the Warriors. Do not trade for Jimmy Butler.